We are live. We're about to be.
You're live.
All right, we are live. Let me make sure everything is turned up.
We are live, or
We are
We're live.
We are live.
We're live.
We're
On
live.
YouTube.
On YouTube.
On
I
YouTube.
should have worn my pirate hat.
Yes. We are live. Okay, hope everyone can hear us. We were unable to get the microphones up and going. Thank you for joining us. This is the HCU Broadcasting and Journalism class. We are being blessed with Pastor Ray and Pastor Rob, who we are doing our pastor service interview with today. So thank you two for being with us.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
Happy to be here. Okay, really quick, can we just go around and introduce everyone? We'll start with you.
I'm Campbell Brown. I'm 14.
Okay.
I'm Grace Beezer and I'm 16.
I am Autumn Lawrence and I'm 13.
I'm Jackson Wright and I'm 12.
I'm India Horton and I'm 37.
Why we're doing ages?
We don't have to do
We're
ages.
doing ages.
The kids can do ages.
My name is Ray Washington, and I am 48. 48.
He gave an age, y'all.
So I'm Rob Townsend, and I'm older than everybody here.
How many years have you been a pastor?
50 balls.
A pastor,
Well,
21. Ministry, 31.
ministry 31. What about you?
I have been a pastor for 22.
22.
Yeah, 22 years.
Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna get started. We have some handy dandy questions right here. Okay.
Shuffling them.
Yeah, we're shuffling them up. What we're gonna do is just take turns picking a card. The kids have done a fabulous job with selecting these cards, so I hope you are ready.
I think so.
And they have done a good job picking out the questions. I would actually like for Grace to start us out. You didn't. Sorry. Here we go.
You were sent the question.
Here we go. Grace is going to start us off with a very specific question.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay.
This feels
Who
like
is
a
it
setup.
for?
This feels
So
like
say
a
who is
setup.
it for?
This question is for Pastor Rob.
Yep,
Yes.
this is the setup.
Is loving people as easy as you make it seem?
Oh my gosh.
She has been dying to ask you
Is
this.
loving people as easy as it makes it? So
Tell the
there's
truth.
two answers to that question.
Mhm.
When I am submitted to the Spirit and done what I need to do to put myself in Jesus's shoes and put my Jesus filter on, it's a piece of cake. When I get stuck and I'm tired and I'm being cranky Rob, it's harder to do.
You're human.
I've gotten fairly good at making sure people outside of here don't know which one they're getting because I try to be loving no matter which one that I am.
Body
But it is
language.
harder sometimes.
Yeah. I can only imagine trying to control the body language and not
Yeah.
showing what you internally feel.
But I do want to add, it helps that I start from a position of I want to love everybody. So even when it's hard, because I'm hard to love too sometimes, I just default to, okay, just choose love.
You're never hard to love.
Well, ask
That
my
can't-
wife.
That cannot
Jenny
be
needs
true.
to have that on tape.
Anything you want to add to that? Is it as easy to love people as you guys preach?
I mean, I agree with everything Rob just said. When I'm in my own feelings and flesh, it's a much more difficult task to love people because it's all about me. When I am submitted to the Holy Spirit, when God is my focus, then when I see people that they are my brothers and sisters in Christ, then it makes it harder to be mean.
Yes.
Because as brothers and sisters, if you have brothers and sisters, you don't want tension, you want fun, you want peace, you want to be able to play and have a good time. And so in order to do that, you need to view each other as brothers and sisters. And as long as I can do that, it
That's
makes it easy.
That's right. And I'm going to add one more. I know you got a lot of other questions, but it's not just with those that would be professing Christians.
No.
It's everyone is a creation of God.
Yeah.
Now, there is a sense where we're brothers and sisters in Christ's family.
Mhm.
That requires a submission to Jesus. But brothers and sisters in the creation, I'm to treat everybody like they have dignity and respect, even if they are completely opposed to me. They can say, Jesus is not even true. I still am called by my Creator to love them so that they can see Jesus' love manifest.
Absolutely.
When I first got baptized, and which I waited like 5 or 6 years to even get baptized because I didn't want to stop cussing. I just had, working in law enforcement, and I just, I was locking people up and sending folks to jail and fighting for a living. And it's just, you get into this culture of, of just cussing like a sailor. So I purposely waited because I was like, Father, I can't, portray Jesus and I'm out here cussing. But when I first got baptized and I was trying to love people better, I would have to say, Jesus, help me. Like I would have to literally say it to myself, sometimes out loud, Jesus, help me. Jesus, help me. Jesus, be with me. Because you can't leave me alone because I'm,
Because people get hurt.
You can't leave me. You need to be with me. So you can tell yourself and talk to yourself internally
right.
when you're in these situations.
Right.
Makes sense?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Campbell, would you like to start us off with our second one?
Do you feel that if our politicians were allowed to freely exercise religion, would there be better moral judgment being made?
Religion and politics. That's a good one.
Read that question again.
I'm absorbing. I've read it a couple of times, even on the sheet they gave us. I'm still trying to.
Do you feel that if our politicians were allowed to freely exercise religion, would there be better moral judgment being made?
That was an autumn question.
You got some good questions.
You
You
gotta
get to
slow
go
it
first
down.
this time.
Let me see the card.
I feel.
Do you feel?
Do you feel? Okay.
No.
Do you feel that if our politicians were allowed to freely exercise religion, would there be better moral judgments being made in the world?
No, I don't.
Really?
They already are free to exercise
That's right.
their religion in our current state of affairs.
That's right.
And moral decisions are not being made. So
Right.
if there were any more free, and they're already free and they're not doing it, give them more freedom. Do you think there's going to be more morale? No, it's not.
What
I
about
would-
separation of church and state?
I would agree with you, Ray. Separation of church and state is a legal term, not a
Okay.
personal term. So there are Christians in the building of politics, and we're still not seeing, as Ray just said, morality. And I think it has to do with the fact that you can never legislate it no matter where you come from. I can't tell you to behave morally with a law. I mean, look at even the 10 Commandments. God knew we were going to fall short of those laws and created a sacrificial system to make up for the fact that we were going to fall short. So God in himself acknowledged early on, here's your standard. That was the best, clearest, most written laws in the history of the world. And God said, and yet I'm going to need to provide a sacrifice because you're not going to hit those laws. So even God acknowledges that reality. So I think separation of church and state is another conversation related to the political system. You cannot separate, if you are a believer in Jesus, you cannot separate that from your job, from your family. I mean, that has to go with you everywhere you go. So if you're saying you're a Christian and you're a politician and you truly are a Christ follower, that right now should be and must be influencing what you're bringing to the table.
The world doesn't want them to do that. Because
Well,
you hear the rallies and
from
don't
the
bring
beginning,
God into this. And,
Satan has not wanted that from the garden,
yes.
so it shouldn't surprise us. So that actually doubles down the answer that absolutely not. So we're talking about a world system.
Yeah.
So no matter how much religiosity you bring into a world system, it's not going to work. And it was never intended to work. Because remember, God even said, I'm going way deep theological now. Remember, God even told Israel that you don't need a king, you need me. And they insisted on a political system.
Yes.
And the political system fell apart almost immediately.
Any questions about that? That was a good one.
That's a good question.
Okay, Jackson, you want to go next? No wild card.
He got
That was a long one. Okay.
If you could go back in time and have one conversation with your younger self, what would you say, Pastor Rob?
I studied that
So I do too.
because it wasn't me.
We're going to have a great chance to answer that too. For me, I've had this conversation with myself over and over again. It's going to be okay once you figure out how to trust Jesus. That's what I would say to myself. If I was your age, if I could go back and talk to my your age self, I was not a follower of Jesus. I was living my own life. I was legislating morality in my life at that time. I would say to myself, hey, listen, you don't believe this right now, but once you find Jesus, this thing's going to level out, man. Just hold on. and do it sooner if you can. Yeah, that's the big message I would want to give my 14, 15, 16-year-old self.
What about you? That's right.
I would say, okay, for me, I would say the moment you love you, it'll make loving others so
Yeah.
easy.
That's good.
And so, when I was your age, because I was trying to frame it around what age would I be, and when I was your age, I would have been either a freshman or in middle school, and life was difficult.
Mm.
I was overweight, and so I got picked on a lot. I had my own anxiety because in gym, for us, in gym, you had to dress out. That means you had to take off your clothes in front of other guys. And so, with being a fat kid, it was. I mean, literally, I would try to figure out how can I get out of having to do this, and I don't know exactly when it was, but the moment I was like, I don't care what you think about me.
Mm.
I love me. It didn't even matter. That anxiety, all of that left. And then I was able to embrace who I was and was able to live life to the full. So what my classmates would tell you about me is that I always had a smile on my face. They would tell you I was fun, I was joyful. I was into school government. So I was our class president all 4 years of high school. I mean, they contested and lost every time. I mean, I was in SAD, Students Against Drunk Driving, DECA, FBLA. I'm telling you, once I got out of my head, all of those other voices and the ones that was actually in person, that was talking about me, fat kid, blah, 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 blah. Once I was able to shut that out, I was gold.
Yeah, it's good.
I would tell myself it's not that serious.
Yeah.
I was so like
just
just
Yeah,
rah, rah all the time.
You were ready for a fight.
Yeah, I was always ready. I was always ready.
She
Come
has
on
that
For
now.
no
fight.
reason.
Was that girl.
Let's
For
go.
no reason. Yeah.
Ride it down.
I would
Set it
communicate.
off.
I would communicate more.
Who's first?
I would communicate. Yeah, I would say what now? Oh, okay. Yeah, I would
Probably.
change some things.
It took a single look and then they just back away, right?
Throw the bone.
Autumn next.
Mhm.
I just saw that happen. She proved you right, Autumn.
I'm like, next question. That's funny.
What are some of the ways that you collaborate with other churches?
That's for you.
So I don't believe any one church is supposed to be all things. If Christ is the head of the church, so let's think Big C Church, not Eastlake, not Gateway, Big C Church, all churches. If Christ is the head of that church, then all the other churches are then other parts of the body, so to speak. Right? And so when I find out that there's a church across town that's doing something that we can't do because we are not made up that way, then I should want to partner with them. It's just like your body. You have a right hand, and if you're right hand dominant, you can do a lot of things with your right hand. You can write with it, you can eat with it. But you know what would be helpful? If you had another hand that could grab the plate. And so when you realize what your church is, what they can provide to the community, if you find out that there are other churches that are providing other things, then it would be a good practice to partner with that church and say, hey, we don't have that program here. Would you mind if we sent some of our people to be in your program for that? I mean, we're not necessarily swapping sheep because some pastors get real all territorial about their people. But if your church is offering something that we can't, why wouldn't I partner with you if we're all part of the same body?
In 2023, do you find that it is easy or?
It's hard.
Okay.
It's harder. And the pandemic made it worse.
Okay.
They were already territorial.
Mm-hmm.
Pastors, some churches are still territorial. But now, coming out of the pandemic where people have not come back, and so now you're talking about your numbers are significantly lower than what they were pre-pandemic. They want to keep who they got, and they're not real ready or instant to share their people or their stuff, unless it means you're leaving their church to come to mine.
That's good. Yeah. Ditto.
Grace? Next question, please. We gotta make sure we speak up so the camera can. Is it a wild card?
The wild
Campbell.
card.
Campbell
Oh.
wild card.
He was
Wild
ready.
card.
He was ready. He was too ready. He was
She
too
was
ready.
excited about
You
it.
all- you all know. You all know.
Let's go.
Because he was ready. He rose up quick. Yep.
What's your favorite movie and why?
My
One.
favorite movie.
One.
Yeah, I saw. I figured the question. This would be a question. It's a hard question to answer because you got to pick one.
I understand.
And I have so many.
Yeah.
I'm a movie guy. So see,
I'm a
Um,
series person.
I'm just gonna close my eyes and the first one that pops
Mm.
in on that big long list
Mm.
is coming out.
Okay.
So there we go. I'm not gonna open it for 3 minutes. All right, so this is not a movie that I recommend to my daughter.
Who is
My son,
how old?
who is 11.
Okay.
My son and I have watched this movie together. And the reason that it is such an important movie to me is the time that I saw it the first time and what was going on in my life. So The Godfather.
The
The
Godfather?
movie The Godfather, yes.
Okay.
With Marlon Brando. It's the story of the mafia in New York City. And I was 17, 18 years old. Yeah. And I was looking for a sense of family. And oddly enough, that bizarre, dysfunctional family that exists in that movie, The Godfather, provided me with a sense of what a family could actually look like. They had each other's backs. They had all those things that I was not experiencing in my life. Now, it was not a lifestyle that I would ever recommend even back then. And again, yeah, it was hard. I was like, do I say The Godfather? Because then I have to explain it as a pastor. What's the pastor doing watching The Godfather? Because it's got some filthy language in it. I only watch the edited version now. I have a copy of the edited version where they're taking the language out. So I can still watch it. But
That's how things
there's
happen.
a bizarre family value thing in The Godfather. Again, must be much older to be able to weed out things. But there's not a lot of violence in it, oddly enough. No graphic violence. So yeah, I think it's a well shot movie. I like the nuance of movie making too. And that movie
That explains the gangs in the world, how they
Yeah.
feel a sense of community.
Yeah,
family if they don't have it at home.
I've pulled on a lot of that when I've done work with gangs in Chicago and other places over the years. Is thinking about, okay, how do we make people feel like they have a home so they don't go try to find a home in something dysfunctional? As Christians, I know. Yours is going to be some holy thing now.
Yeah, Prince of Egypt. Just joking. Just
That's
joking.
my favorite.
Just joking. It's
I do
not.
like
It's
that one.
not.
That
That's
was
not my
my
favorite.
favorite. That was my favorite. I was in
No,
eighth
my
grade when
favorite
it came
movie.
out.
My favorite
I'm
movie.
surprised
I'm
you
torn
didn't catch
between
one.
Book of Eli and The Matrix.
Okay.
Both are
This is
good.
my favorite.
Come on. Come
That
on,
was
come
on my
come
list.
come
That was on my list.
Prince of
It's just
Egypt
one.
is the reason why I went to college the first time for animation. I then changed to construction management, but I started off with animation.
Two very different fields. That's awesome.
Both of those movies have deep biblical
They do.
undertones to them.
They do.
So.
The Matrix. Now I have to go home and watch it.
You've never watched The Matrix?
They made the new
I don't-
movie, remember?
No, don't.
Ah,
No,
please don't.
no,
Don't do
no,
that.
no, no,
Don't
no,
do
no.
that.
Don't do that.
So I need to
Too
start
fast.
with the original.
Start
You need
with
to start and
Start
stop.
Start
I don't
Matrix.
think I
Start
have.
with Matrix.
Start and stop with the first couple.
Yeah. Don't do the new one.
Ooh,
It's trash.
okay.
Not
It's
even after.
It's
Not
trash.
even after you watch
Garbage.
it.
Trash. It's trash.
Like,
The new Matrix is garbage.
Trash.
I don't even know why they
Certified.
made the movie.
Certified trash.
It's certified trash.
Very confused.
Oh my goodness. Okay, Jackson, you're up, friend.
What is your least favorite part of being a pastor?
Oh,
The least favorite part for me of being a pastor is when people who are already hurting and they come to you for help and they don't do what you've advised them to do. Because Rob and I both have been at this for 2 decades, okay? At least 2 decades in the role of being a pastor. And we have seen enough that I believe, I'll speak for myself. I've seen enough that when you advise a person in love, you're telling them what are their best options, their best next steps forward. We've seen enough that when they don't choose that, we already know what's up next. It's like when your parents are telling you don't do something. They're telling you because they were once your age.
Yeah.
And they know what's up ahead. They understand the road that you're on. And when you see grown individuals, it's different than when you're children. Okay.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about a grown individual
That's right.
that may have a family, when they make mistakes, it affects all of them. When you make a mistake, it may affect just you. If you have siblings, it may affect them a little bit, but it's not like life altering, so to speak, most cases. But for me, when I make a mistake, I have a wife, I have a daughter, I have a granddaughter even, that my mistake will now affect because I didn't do what was told to me is right. That's difficult. It's difficult to watch that over and over again.
That's the hardest part is you give advice. Not and let me be clear, I'm not saying that we are the end all be all source of advice. Our advice isn't always the only advice that should be taken. But I've been praying about that usually if I'm counseling with you. And for me specifically, most of my time has been working with young people, families, while being able to do a lot of the adult stuff too. But I've been working with teens. That's the 31 years I've been working with teenagers or young college students. And I know that if you pick A, you're going to get B as a result. And I'll tell you that. And I'll explain why. I won't just be like, no, just listen to me because I said so. I'm telling you, when you make this decision 90% of the time, this is what happens. When you make this decision 100% of the time, this is what happens. And then somebody will be like, okay, thank you. And then they'll walk out and make the exact opposite or the decision you just warned them not to make. And it's like, oh.
They just did what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
Why did you even ask?
And here's the hard part of it.
What
And
did
Ray
you
did not
ask?
say this. And then they'll blame you for not giving them
Ooh.
good advice. Not everybody, but that happens.
That sounds
Then-
frustrating.
It's very
Yes,
frustrating.
that sounds extremely frustrating. Do you guys ever come into that situation when you have friends that are constantly like making the same mistakes or saying the same
I
things?
am the friend that gets doesn't listen. Like I hear you, but like no, then comes back like yeah.
So what can we do differently?
Yeah.
What can we do differently, Grace?
a lot of things.
Okay, well at least you recognize it. That's
Yeah.
the first
And to talk
step.
about that, and it's a process too. And so it's not that it's frustrating and it's hard, but it's rewarding when you stay with somebody and they stay with it. And
Yeah.
each time they make a small degree different change. That's all we're ever really looking for. And I mean, like a
Progress.
1% change over a lifetime is a huge trajectory change.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm a stubborn person too, so I don't always take the advice people give me.
She's agreeing with you. She's like, I concur. You are stubborn.
So I get it, but that's back to my first question that y'all asked me about how you asked me, Grace, about how do you love people. When I'm submitted to Jesus, how I want to respond becomes almost irrelevant because I'm waiting for the Spirit to tell me what to do. And the Spirit will say, I know you want to do that, but you're going to do this. And it's like, okay, I'm good.
So you guys are blessed. We have what, 122 kids? If you were in public school, you would be around thousands, hundreds and hundreds of kids, and you're dealing with a lot more drama. But you guys are really close knit, and you don't really deal with a lot of the drama. But that may change when you get in other places and spaces.
Mhm.
But when you're coming into those situations, it's like, okay, what's the solution? Are we just going to keep going round and round complaining about the same thing? But what can we do to get out of this vicious cycle?
I'll add one more thing. You have when you have, because Rob and I we didn't grow up with the same parent structure. When you have two healthy, loving parents, they should always be your go-to.
That's right.
Second to God.
Yep.
Okay. When you don't have that, then I mean it's just God.
Yeah.
You just gotta go to Him and allow Him to tell you what's right and what's wrong. Because if you have all the friends telling you your friends are not God, your friends aren't even old enough to see ahead of you to know what's going on, And so your
That's
your
right.
your go-to have to be God and your parents, because even now, as a parent, my go-to is God.
Yes. Oh,
Period.
yes.
That is my go-to. Pandemic happened. I couldn't call my mom. I mean, I could have, but it wouldn't have worked. I could have called my mom and said, "Hey, mom, what do you think I should do about?" Well, first of all, my mom is not a pastor. Okay. Second of all, my mom has never led through a pandemic. Her hearing about a pandemic was the same for me. First time ever in our lives.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, who is the best person to go to that knows everything? Who's the person in your life that knows everything? Well, if you don't have a relationship with God, then it might be your parents. And especially if you got both of them, don't waste that.
Yeah, seriously.
Right.
Don't waste that.
Right.
Because I didn't have both parents. I had one. Right. And so when you don't have healthy parents, it's like having no parents.
Or it could be worse. It's just,
Yeah.
you guys are so blessed.
Oh my
Yes,
gosh.
so
good.
so
That's
blessed, because I had a stepfather, but he was a nightmare. Like he was a nightmare. Grew up in South Florida. My parents were millionaires. I lived on the beach. Like on the outside, it looked so grand. But I think that's the reason why I fought so much, because I was tapped out by the time I got to school. I couldn't communicate because I was so busy surviving at home that I didn't have the bandwidth to deal and communicate with others. And then also, we were not allowed to go to church. Like I was not allowed to go to church. And so I did not have God. My mom was not present, dealing with him and all the other craziness. So I read books. Like that's how I learned basic things that you get to come and ask me. I would just read, and I like basically kind of raised myself in that sense. And so I've come up out of that, and I want to make sure that you guys understand how truly blessed you are.
Is that why you like math?
I think so. I don't know. It's analytical. It's problem solving. I love math. I don't know. I feel in control. It's just,
Because if you do this and this, you get this.
Yes, and it's
There's,
right
like-
there. Yeah. And I'm like, I did that. Yeah. I love algebra. But when I I didn't like English because it's like all of these feelings and all of this. And I'm like, I did that.
It's like a comma changed the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like,
I'm like, well, what did you mean by that? I don't have time to figure it out. Yeah. So I like
It's funny. That's how I feel about math.
it.
Math is not my friend. Oh, here it comes.
Mr. Campbell.
Good, got a wild card.
Would you say that homosexuality is a sin in the eyes of God?
Oh.
I sent you the list.
Just spoke too soon.
First you had the wild card. Now you got that.
It's coming out.
You don't get to pick no more cards.
This wild card's already been used up, right?
You're totally skipping me.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not going in order. I'm just.
Which one else?
I mean, I think we can both do this, but go ahead.
All right. So let me ask you this question: is gluttony a sin in the eyes of God?
Overeating.
Overeating is overeating. It's
It
listed as a
is.
sin. Is telling a lie a sin? I'm doing that on purpose. I could go through a whole list of things, and on that list, I would put the acting out on homes. I think it is clear that God says that He made male and female, intends for males and females to be the relational marital platform. Here is where it gets messier. What does God call us to do with every one of the people in our life that suffers from any sin at all? To love them. So yes, I would say that the acting out on a homosexual urge is against God's plan, which is that's the definition of sin. Sin is something that goes against God's perfect will.
So yes.
So yes, and it sounds like I'm giving an elaborate answer because I kind of am, because what I want to make sure that we're not going to do with that question, if you're hearing me, is turning homosexuality into a sin that is different from any of the others, because it is not different than any of the others. They're all fall short of God's target.
Yeah.
So the answer is yes, but the reason I give all of this is we have a tendency in the Christian world to say, yeah, but this one. And it's like there's no yeah, but this one in God's eyes anywhere in the Bible.
It doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel that way because certain sins seem more
From our perspective,
dramatic,
From
and
the
just
human
so
eye.
huge,
from the human eye,
like murder.
we have created those. But
It's
murder's on
final.
the exact same list as lying.
It is.
It's not like here's the murder list, which is the worst list, and then here's the lie list. The 10 Commandments contains both of them as equal sins.
Yeah.
Just I want to be clear about that.
Disobeying your parents. That's the sin.
Same sin as same sin.
Same sin as murder.
It is.
So this is why we're supposed to ask for forgiveness every day. I need to do better
Yeah.
with this.
So
I
here's
need
the
to
cool
do better
thing.
with that.
So here's the cool thing, is because God has paid the price for all sins. Every sin has the ability to be every sinful behavior has the ability to be submitted to His grace, and for Him to be at work within us in transforming and making us more holy. That's the beautiful thing about it. So every one of the sins on the list of sins, and it's a long list, is a sin, and we don't use that word enough in today's church. And I'm not afraid to use that word. It's also a sin to not love somebody who's suffering from sin, because it says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. And the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. And so first we're to love God with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength. So I'm going to use this very good example. So I'm to love the Lord my God with all my heart, my soul, and strength, and I'm to love the homosexual next door as I love myself. I'm to love the murderer next door as I love myself. Now, there are human consequences, which is what I know you're referring to, and we get confused in our heads about. It is right that a murderer be punished and sent to jail. It is not right for us to think that that murderer is that we're any better than that murderer in terms of being sin-filled in God's eyes. And I know that's a really loaded statement, but a murderer can be as forgiven as a liar in the eyes of the Lord. That doesn't mean they're going to get out of jail early or they're going to have their consequences on earth removed from them. It just means that in heaven, you're going to run into some murderers, and you're going to run into some folks that practice homosexuality in your lifetime in heaven.
So have you ever had any friends or even yourself where you have a parent tell you to stay away from a certain person because they're a bad influence or you don't want them to become a bad influence? How does that play into what you guys are saying?
Again, listening to your parents first and
Correct.
foremost
Correct.
is what you need to do.
I agree.
And when there's ability to I guess be a positive influence in a lot of those that you have been told to be
Wary?
be wary of, be aware of, then do that. I mean, I grew up, there was a guy in my neighborhood, he was the cool kid. He was absolutely the coolest kid. We were in a rap group together even. I'm in the rap group with him. But my mom was never, ever okay with me spending the night at their house. Now, we're in the same cul-de-sac. You know what a cul-de-sac is. All right? So this is our house. This is another house. And this is his house. I couldn't walk across the cul-de-sac to go stay at his house because my mom was not cool with the way that his parents were parenting him and did not want me to be influenced by that. And let me tell you, at the age of 48, I'm glad she did the things that she did because I got to see, I have to wait till I was 48. I mean, there were friends that hung around with him that are no longer here right now. Okay. They used to go skating and I wanted to go with them so bad. And they went one night to a skating party and the one guy got shot and died. This is in high school.
Yeah.
What?
So if I was allowed,
You would have been right there.
I would have been right there. Who's to say it wouldn't have been me?
That's right.
Now, I don't drink, I don't smoke, never have done any of those things. But just by being in that environment,
Oh, wow.
it could have been me.
Yeah.
Now, have I had a good influence on his life? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But did I have to go spend the night? I did not. And my mom said it. And I mean, of course, I pouted like any other kid would. But eventually I got it because my mom didn't care. Oh, you mad? Just go in your room and think about it.
Right. I think
So
it probably-
boundaries are okay. You can still
Absolutely.
love from afar
Sure
if you
can.
need to.
Well, I think
depending
it,
on the situation.
I think of Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. We can go all the way back to 1 and all the way up and then beyond. But
Yep.
it talks about if we trust in the Lord with all our heart and lean not on our understanding and all our ways acknowledge Him, He's going to keep our path straight. I need to do that with all the relationships in my life. I mean, say, Lord, where is my place in this relationship? Is this a relationship where if I do it this way, it's going to be a straight path. If I do it this way, they're going to drag me down into the ditch.
Mm.
And if I'm trusting God on that, I can have all kinds of friends.
Mhm.
And to me, it's who's doing the influencing. This is what I teach my kids. Is I don't mind you being in protected, boundary-filled things with people that I'm going to completely disagree with, guys, because God may put you there because you're going to be influence them. However, those boundaries are going to matter, and we're going to protect it. So when dealing, especially in today's modern day, when it comes to this topic we're talking about, that we started with homosexuality and LGBTQ and all those big buzzwords that are out there, we have to maintain our orthodox theological position, which is a big way of saying know what we believe and stick to it by the power of the Spirit while doing exactly what Jesus did. Now, he was Jesus. He could get away with more than we could. He hung out in the places that we often run away from. Jesus hung out with the sinners.
Yes.
And again, we're not Jesus, so our parents give us great boundaries. We follow them. The Bible gives us great boundaries. We follow them. But we look for influential moments. Where people are, how are you doing hanging out with those people? As an adult, I am never more honored than when somebody goes, I can't believe you were hanging out with those people. Whoever those people happen to be. I love it when somebody says that to me because I'm like, well, that's what Jesus heard every day of his life.
Yeah.
I can't believe you're hanging out with them.
Yep. Tax collector.
Mhm.
You over here taking folks' money.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That was a very long answer.
I understand. You guys have any questions on that one? No? Okay, Grace, you're up.
I should have shuffled it when I had a chance.
You better put a wild card.
I did not.
I want to peek.
How do you feel when you
Cheating.
meet a non-believer that does not want to learn about Christ?
I'm okay. I'm okay when they don't want to learn about Christ. If they want to be around me, they're going to experience Him anyway. Now, I'm not going to beat them up with the Bible. I'm not going to start spitting scriptures at them. But if you're around me, you're going to feel His love. You're going to feel His grace. You're going to feel His mercy. You're going to feel an opportunity to be a great friend or become a great friend.
That's right.
And I hope through that, they become interested in Jesus.
Yeah.
Well said. You're planting the seed.
That's right.
You're planting the seed. You know how many families that have signed up at the co-op and then walked away after they see my live video that I do in bands each and every semester, because we are a faith-based, we are a Christian co-op. We accept everyone.
Mhm.
Okay. And it's not a matter of having families feel like, are they a good fit for us? You know how other places, other co-ops, you have to fill out an interest form and you have to do an interview to go there. We don't do that. So it's a matter of, are we a good fit for you? Because we are Christians, and you may see people praying, and you've pulled me out of class to pray. You know, like you're going to see pockets of people praying and blessing their food and all this and that. So we have atheists, we have Mormons, we're a collection of everyone. But when I get to experience, well, what did you mean by that in this prayer? You know, when they stop walking out during prayer, we give them an opportunity, and they, well, what do you mean by this? You're planting seeds. You're planting seeds.
How to go to the feeling. How do I feel? Everything Ray said. That's my motto. But it's sad because I was once them, and I knew how long the road was to get to interest in 6 or 7 years. And so I'm sad because I remember being them.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I know that you think you've got this figured out, and that this is making it better for you, that you're resisting this thing.
Yeah.
But I'm sad.
Yeah.
I don't tell them I'm sad all the time. I'm like, then you make me sad. I don't say that. I'm just sad for them because I know how much hope is available to them.
Mm-hmm.
I have a random question.
Uh-oh.
How
It's not on
so?
the sheet.
No, it's not. No.
I don't know. Can we veto that?
I'm breaking the rules. Okay, so I can't even say it used to drive me insane. It drives me insane where I see folks that are successful or even millionaires and they're doing well. They are just living a life full of sin, and they're
Right.
just like they're doing it the wrong way. You know,
You mean like those singers?
sometimes singers, yes. You know, and they're out there doing their little devil cakes and hanging out with the witches and doing all, and they're so success. You know, like you're so successful. You have all the things, and it's like, okay, but the Christians seem like they're not living as lavish a life. It drives me up a wall.
Like Katy Perry.
Yes.
With me, what I've always thought about that is we don't really need to live that lavish life though, because really all we need is Jesus. It's kind of always how, because I have a lot of friends who are rich and have a lot of money, and like we just got a boat, and the house that I grew up in till I was 8 was less expensive than that boat. Like, so I've grown up through that, and it's like I couldn't be happier. And it's like I feel like God just.
But when you
blesses
have
people,
teenagers
but-
looking at all of this
Oh, yeah.
stuff, it seems
Yeah.
like they're so blessed.
Yep.
And they're non-believers.
It does not translate.
No.
Stuff doesn't translate as blessed.
That's right.
Peace translates as blessed.
That's right.
Woo!
And so when you lay your head down at night and not have to worry about food,
Mm.
shelter, safety. I mean, I'm sure, I'm not saying every last one of them, but if you've grown up in a house where you've had all the stuff, but you hear mom and dad arguing and fighting, would you trade all the stuff to have a peaceful house?
Mm.
I'm sure you would.
Yes.
Yeah. That's good.
You know, and so don't allow the lure of shiny things
Mhm.
to replace of having an inner peace that you can't go buy.
Good.
Don't get distracted.
That's good.
It may look like they're living their life, but even with the Katy Perrys and other, all you have to do is watch long enough and you see their lives end up being a wreck.
But then there's the other side, you know, and so I'm often grateful that I don't have that lifestyle, because I had a really good friend in college. His name was Rob too. And to my knowledge, he still hasn't accepted Christ, to my knowledge. But he had everything going for him. He was the smartest kid in school, really, in my college. He was brilliant. He had perfect health. He had a beautiful car. His parents paid for everything. He had money in his pocket at all times. He was the nicest guy I've ever met, too, by the way. This is what I mean by the other side. He was not like in your face kind of. He was a very generous person. He had all of these things that you would think a Christian should have, actually. And yet he could never see his need for Jesus, because he never needed to rely on Jesus.
Wow.
And so remember that those people that look like they pray, say, thank God all together, sometimes they're at a deficit because they don't really see the need for Jesus. Because why do I got to thank Jesus for everything? I've had plenty my whole life. Jesus gave it to you, whether you know it or not. But I'm sometimes very grateful that I grew up barely having what I needed, because I am grateful for everything that I have.
Amen.
Because I see how God engineered my life change to give me prosperity in his sense, not prosperity in the financial sense, because that's not even my goal anymore. It's creating the house where my kids wake up every morning and know mom and dad are in love. Know mom and dad love Jesus. Knowing, yeah, they're going to have all their things met. Like, I'm going on an amazing trip with my son in a week that I never could have taken as a child, because God has been blessing us. But the point of that is that he gets to go with his dad, not that he gets to go do this lavish thing. You know, we're going to spend 10 days sleeping in a hotel room together, just doing life. And that's what matters, not the thing we're doing. You know, and I sometimes, I feel bad for people who have so much and yet don't have Jesus, because it's going to be harder for them. I mean, there's even a story in the Bible about it. The rich young ruler, Jesus knew that that wealth was going to get in the way.
Yeah.
Because he knew that wealth provided him with a sense of security that wasn't real.
Oh, sense of security.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Want to go ahead?
You never
I'm not,
let me go.
I'm not going in any particular order.
Oh,
I'm sorry,
okay.
wild card. I will go in order from now on.
It's
I'll
a
just go
wild
like
card?
this.
Wild card for Grace.
I'm just gonna go like this from
She's
now
gonna
on.
get.
I'm
You gotta
sorry.
give her a couple in a row.
I gotta get. Oh, I have
She'll
been
probably
skipping
come
you.
right
I'm
at us,
sorry,
too.
love.
She'll
You
probably
skipped me
come-
like twice.
I wasn't going in order. I will go in order from now
This is a great question.
It's a wild card.
Maybe it's yours.
Okay.
on.
I think it's your-
Oh, is this for you, Restoration?
It's not-
Alright. What is your favorite seasoning?
Oh,
This is not that hard.
it's not even fair.
That one.
It's not even fair.
Mm.
Yes. think we're both gonna have the same answer.
Yes, we're gonna have the same answer. Reverend Ray's, of course, is my favorite seasoning. Yeah. Of the 6 of them though, I would have to say number 3 or 4 is my favorite. 4 when I'm entertaining people that want spicy, and 3 when not so much. So
What's in number 4? A couple things.
it's well the key things are honey and ghost chili peppers.
So good.
And so the honey is an emulsifier. And so what happens
Spicy.
is, well, see, that's what I'm explaining. The honey is an emulsifier, which means it coats your tongue, so that when you eat the ghost pepper, it's not as bad.
Yeah.
It's actually about 40% less the heat, and it is sneaky. So it's not the first thing you taste. It comes later. So after you've had a bite or two, you're like, oh my God, it's so good. Whoa, who turned up the heat? It's just that
beautiful.
subtle.
It's beautiful.
So yeah.
And there's a second question.
That's my favorite too, by the way. 4.
I know your question. What is your favorite dessert?
Oh, my favorite dessert.
Oh, I know this one.
It's carrot cake.
Yeah, it's carrot
Carrot
cake.
cake, 100%.
Yeah.
Good carrot cake, by the way, not that nappy, nasty spice cake that they call carrot cake with no good frosting on it.
No.
I make
Oh, I've had that before. It's disgusting.
Oh, it's
It is
awful.
nasty.
Somebody's like, "Hey, want some carrot cake?" I'm like, "You
Who
bring it
made
in.
it?
You take one bite out of it. Where you bringing some carrot cake? 'Cause that's not carrot cake."
Ooh.
Terrible. Okay, Autumn Sky. I'm sorry, love. There you go. I'm gonna start
believe-
going like
I
this.
believe in you.
Wild card.
If not,
Amen.
Dun-
It would have been hers though. So she's still
Yeah, right.
what does your week look like as a pastor?
Ooh. Ooh.
I guess an average week. I don't know if it looks the same every week.
Well, what's Monday look like for both of us, right?
So Monday is our Sabbath. It is our day of rest. It's a day that you're not finding us anywhere near or in this building. We are, Rob is probably either walking his neighborhood, running the dam, or running on his treadmill.
Playing some video games.
With me, I'm probably going to the gym to start my day off. I leave the gym, I go grocery shopping, or just walk around the store. Really. Sometimes I don't even need anything. And then I go home, I shower, I read, I nap. I might catch up on shows that I like to watch. And then I have my small group. That's on Monday. Monday is a day of rest. Okay. And then Tuesday for both of us is the hardest day of the week most of the times, because Tuesday is every day is back in the office. And so we're doing heavy business stuff. We're in lots of meetings,
Meeting
at
Palooza.
least 3 or 4 meetings that day. And then on Wednesday, it's a softer meeting day for most of us. And then Rob, because he's family pastor, he's here Wednesday evenings. I may leave around 5:30, 6 o'clock. Thursdays, a much lower meeting day. We may have 2 meetings that day if we coordinate it to be such. Friday for us is normally either a half day or an off day. Saturdays, it depends. On the weeks that we have to preach, then Friday and Saturday becomes different, because Friday you may still be preparing. For me, I work a half day on Friday. On Saturday, I come in and do a half day as well. And then Sunday, you're here preaching and running through services. So that's what a standard week looks like for me. I know there's
It's
some
fairly
differences.
close. Thursday is a big at-home day for me, but I'm usually working on lessons. I'm doing research for messages in all the venues where I can do it relaxed in my office at home. And kind of every once in a while, shout out to my wife, who's working upstairs. She works from home. We get some time together. Friday, I tend to come in the morning, and then it's always different. Yeah, it's just always different. Some Fridays I'm done by 12. Some Fridays I'm done at 6.
Do you guys do
It
weddings?
depends.
We do weddings, we do funerals.
So those are as they come
As they
in. Obviously,
Yeah.
weddings are planned well in advance. Funerals, of course, are not.
Right. We do emergency counseling.
Yeah.
And so that means, if your parents call because they're having a really rough time and they need to talk to somebody, we will get 2 of us together. We'll try to get 2 of us together, male, female, to come up and meet with a husband and wife. And
Yeah.
sometimes that takes an hour and a half to 2 hours of our time. And that's not programmed, that's just in addition to. And so I would tell you this. So in the corporate world, full-time is known as 40 hours a week. Okay.
Yeah.
Standard corporate America.
Starts goes up.
Is right. In ministry, in pastoring, full-time, I would say your average is 55 hours a week. And that's an average. And so that means that there are times that you are near 42, 43, never 40 really. I mean, I can't recall last time I've actually seen a 40-hour work week since being full-time pastoring. Or there are times it is 60. When you think about holidays, it gets crazy.
Hospital visits.
Yeah.
On call, we have an
On
on call
call,
structure here, which is
She's
beautiful.
on right now.
Which is beautiful because it's much more relaxed than the churches I've been in, where it's like when you're not on call, you can ignore that phone call.
Right.
It's just your prerogative. I mean, if you're busy with your family, you can ignore it. But when you're on call, you have a 15-minute window that we ask you to get. You can ignore the call if you're in the middle of something, but you're asked to return the call back within 15 to 20 minutes after they leave the voicemail message.
An on call means that he's on call.
So if somebody calls the church's number, this phone will ring.
And he has to answer it.
All weekend.
Have you ever had someone call and say, "I'm going to kill myself"?
Yes.
Absolutely.
What?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I had lunch with my family one time.
You get calls, you get emails about stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's where you a secondary thing on that is, and that's where you trust Jesus to give you the guidance you need in that moment. Because sometimes when somebody calls and says that, we're actually not the right person for them to be talking to long term, because we're not trained counselors. So for me, I recently, as a matter of fact, someone stayed on with them long enough to get them on the suicide prevention hotline.
Okay.
And then handed it over to them, like guided them to the right person. I was the initial life vest, and then the lifeguard that pulled them out of the water was the trained counselor on the other end of a crisis line. But those are the kind of things that can hit. I think you can have a week less than 40 hours if you plan your schedule. Like I have kids different ages and different ranks. So I have had a couple of like 32-hour weeks, but they're always followed by a 60-hour week because you just make the judgment call that this event with my kids, I'm going to end up having to work a little bit more. I would say on my Sabbath, sometimes I will take half of my Sabbath and give it up because it's like I'd rather be at June's, my daughter's concert, which requires that I take some more time off than I was planning on that day.
Now you have to do the work.
And then I still got to get the stuff done.
Yeah.
I mean, but I will say what I love about it is that 60 hours outside of the crisis, outside of those set times, it's the most flexible job I've ever been in. And then I can honestly choose to do that research after my kids go to bed if I want to. If I want to go in and take that dedicated, disciplined time from 9 to midnight, that's totally okay. The people stuff tends to be between here and here. But I have been known at times to tell my wife, hey, good night. I'm going to sit down here for another couple hours just because there's nobody in the house making any noise at that time.
Yeah.
But it is a lot of work.
It is a lot.
I'm my old lady. I've been going to bed at 8:30.
I like that. I do like that.
The past couple of weeks,
See, I'm getting ready to be gone.
Never.
I'm getting ready to be gone for 10 days now. That's easy to do. I have the PTO to do that.
8:30.
Yeah, he's still talking about what time I get off. So I'm working a lot of extra hours.
Because I've been exhausted. Yeah.
I do that.
Like 11.
Yeah.
I didn't go to bed till like 11:30 last night.
No.
See, you with me.
No.
11:30.
Yeah, but how much is that?
12:30.
Okay, tell them how much sleep you need.
I average 5.5 to 6 hours sleep.
that.
I need 7. I need 7.
I
need
can't do
8 or
7.
9. I don't know why.
Absolutely not.
Why I'm
I don't
wired
need that many.
way.
I need about 7, 7.5.
I don't know why I'm wired that way, but I need a good
My medical
7.
trained friend over here knows that 7 is
I
what the
get it.
doctors are saying.
You're right, but I get up before my alarm.
My
Do you
alarm
have
is
mom
critical.
when you wake up yet?
See, I'll wake up between 4:30 and 5. Between maybe 4:30,
Wake up
5:30.
at 5:30.
And he can still go to bed at 11. There's no way.
Yeah,
There's no
absolutely.
way. I can't do it.
See, when I go to bed early like that time, or if I go to bed at 9, I'll be up between 5 and 6. But I usually do go to bed between 10 and 11, and I'm sleeping until about 6:45, 7 o'clock. Then I get up and I'm ready to roll within 15 minutes. I mean, I don't have a lot to do. So it's real quick and easy.
He's bald.
Just wash his head.
I just
Okay.
take a wet wipe. We're good.
We're gonna go in order now, so I don't get called out. So we're gonna start here.
Well, this it's got a lot of writing on this card.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Has there ever been a time when where you questioned your faith? If so, what was the situation?
When my friend dropped dead in front of me
Oof.
at 27 years old, unexpectedly from a heart defect that should have been caught, quote unquote. I'm not putting blame on anybody, but for real, should have been caught. He was a Marine who had retired, who had come out of a tour and was working at the university that I worked at. I had been a Christian for 6 years, had been working for InterVarsity, and was working full-time for the university and had begun teaching a youth group. And Art literally was standing up and then fell down and was on. And he was dead. They determined he was dead before he hit the ground. I remember wrestling with God, saying, "Why would you do that?"
Yeah.
And being pretty mad at him, because Art had, and of course later, upon retrospect, it was an opportunity for me to see how faithful God was. But in the moment of the emotion, I remember being like, "I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can trust a God that this man just got married, had a child. The woman that he married had already been widowed once." I'm like,
Oh,
"God,
my
are you
goodness.
kidding me? Who are you?" But God showed me something really cool that once the emotions butt off. And it was Art had come to trust Christ 3 months before. And his was still to this day, the most Christ-filled funeral I've ever been to. He only had 3 months to be a Christian.
Wow.
And all we heard about was his faith in Jesus for an hour and a half. So my crisis of faith was redeemed by God, because there was a pretty, you can ask my wife, we've been married a very short period of time. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to do this Jesus thing because I don't get this. This makes no sense to me. So mine wasn't a crisis. I think sometimes it's much less dramatic than that. But my main moment of that was a crisis moment.
How about you?
At 48 years old, I can tell you that I've never, ever questioned my faith. Now, I've questioned my existence, but not my faith. Because I've seen too much from the age of 3 all the way to 48 to know that God is 100% real. And I have faith in him alone, because nothing else is worthy of putting my full trust in. But like any teenager, I've questioned my existence.
Yeah.
I remember being 16 years old and contemplating suicide. And it was God who spoke to show me that's not what you want to do.
So having not been a Christian in my teen years, that's why mine are always a little later. Right? I didn't have any faith when I was your age. I had faith in alcohol, drugs, and living the way you want.
I saw things when I was your age that is unexplainable.
That's what I was about to ask.
Yes, and that is how I knew that heaven and God must be real, because if Satan is real and all of these things are floating and moving and all on their own, I know for a fact that there must be a God.
Has there been
So
a moment where you saw something move?
You just want me to talk about it, don't you?
So she's now interviewing her. We're off. We can go.
Right.
Yes, starting at the age of 6. I mean, even in front of my whole family, I've seen cabinets open and closing, open, close, all of them at the same time, boom, boom, boom. I remember being 6 years old and having a picture of Kool-Aid on Thanksgiving Day, my entire family there, and the Kool-Aid just on its own go to the end of the table, then shoot off, hit the wall, splatter. I've seen a bed sink in with nobody on it. I've seen
Spiritual warfare is real.
I've seen a lot. So
Absolutely.
I knew then. So when I turned 18 and moved out on my own, 2 weeks after I turned 18, I had my own apartment in Fort Lauderdale. I immediately went to church. Immediately. Because I just knew that God was real. There was no way that he wasn't. Yeah. Okay, ma'am.
That's deep.
It is. We're getting low on time.
What time is it?
It is 9:53.
We have so
10
many other cards.
10:53.
I mean 10:53. We may not get to them.
How do you
I
feel?
don't know.
I'm sorry.
How do you feel
Like
about
7
Christians
minutes.
being oppressed in other countries?
Feel.
That's
I'm being oppressed in this
Feel.
country.
How do I feel about Christians being Biblically, it's right.
We should expect it.
Biblically, it's right.
Biblically is right.
Jesus promised it to us.
Right. We're promised that we're going to suffer. We're promised that we're
Promise.
going to be oppressed. I mean, if it's true that the world is against him,
Mhm.
okay, then if we are representatives,
That's
how
right.
can we not expect it?
That's right.
And oppression, what we consider oppression in this country is laughable in the rest of the world.
Absolutely.
100% laughable.
Not even
Because
close.
I just came from India,
Not even close.
that they are literally being killed. In the Middle East, they are being killed for their faith in Jesus Christ.
Still?
Absolutely.
I've been in a refugee center in Germany and heard stories of Christians. Has the tide turned against Christianity in America? Yes. Are we oppressed? No.
We're inconvenienced.
That's right.
We're inconvenienced. There's a difference between being oppressed and being inconvenienced.
That's right.
You have to wait in a line because, there's a lot of people and very little employees. That's an inconvenience. But because you believe in Jesus, you lose a job. Because you believe in Jesus, you get beat up by a mob of people that don't believe in Jesus. That's oppression. You can't get a job because of your faith. That's oppression.
That's right.
You get killed because of your belief. That's oppression.
That's correct.
And when we talk about oppression on a massive scale, we experience inconveniences and sometimes maybe a
Individual.
tinge, right, of oppression. But by and large, the places that I've been, things that I've seen, it's not even the same. They would love to come over here and experience what we consider to be oppression.
Oh,
They would be living their
They
best
love our
life.
oppression. They love our oppression. I mean, that's a funny statement to make. They love our oppression.
All right. Who's up next?
Oh.
You already forgot.
Pick a
She's
card,
sick.
any
You
card.
know,
No, no.
Pick a
Right.
card, any card.
She's the hardest one on this panel.
Yeah. She wants it to be.
She's up with the wild
Well,
cards.
since we're running short on time, why don't you give her
I think we
a
need to
wild
get through all the wild cards.
Your wild cards.
Oh my God.
You.
Come with the wild cards. Toys.
We can just do them all. You don't even
Okay.
have to do it. They have given us the green light.
She's thinking about this one before she does.
Why does a lot of scripture repeat itself in different books and chapters?
I love that question, actually.
Go for it.
Because God knows we're thick-headed, and we need to hear it multiple places. But no, that's not my
I'm about to
official.
say, is that
That's
your
not my
official
official
answer?
answer. Because it was written. Let's take the Old Testament. The Old Testament the Old Testament, the Hebrew language is a circular language, and so meaning it's going to make the point like this. It's going to come. It's going to repeat itself, come back to a main point, repeat itself, come back to a main point.
Okay.
It's going to point you from different directions to the same concept. So we should expect the literature that God used to follow the cultural norms of the communication. So there's a lot of repetition because I said it with tongue in cheek. God knows we need to hear it multiple times. God knows we need to hear it multiple ways. God knows we need different examples to plug in the same truth into. So we can be like, oh, so we can't let ourselves off the hook. Be like, because we can think like that doesn't apply to me. And then the next story is like, well, that applies to me. Bummer. And so God is so perfect in his communication that from front to back, you can see the main themes of the Bible everywhere. You can see Jesus in the garden and you can see Jesus in Revelation. You can see Jesus in Kings and you can see Jesus in Corinthians. Because of the way that the Bible was woven together by the Holy Spirit with repetition in mind to continue on the main themes that God was trying to get through to his creation. And he'd use the languages of the day to make sure he used those styles to get the word.
You think anyone has added their opinion? Do you think God has allowed any of the writers to add their opinion?
Opinion? No. Style and personality? Yes. And Ray may have a different take on that than me. And that's okay, by the way. But mine is, I think that you see the different opinions, the different personalities of each individual author are used by their creator to convey the message. So there's some uniqueness to the way Peter wrote, uniqueness to Paul, uniqueness to Moses, and so on and so forth.
Opinion is an interesting word to use. There are a few translations where
Yeah,
there are some
translation
things
from-
that have been changed
translation. Sorry.
that aren't necessarily holding true to the original
I wasn't thinking translations. But that's a
meaning
good
of
catch.
that.
That's a good
Yeah.
catch.
Like, when a character in the Bible has been a female, where a certain translation has now made that person either nondescript or male.
Ooh,
And so that's dangerous,
yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty crucial.
you know. But again, when you say opinion, I wrestle with opinion. I think that's not an opinion. That is actually targeted.
When you're thinking of translations, I affirm everything you're saying. I was thinking of the original language, the original authors put the opinions in.
No,
And no, they did not. They put
No.
their personality.
not at all.
As scribes have over the years done things as possible, and in modern day translations, different translators take opinion and insert it. That does happen.
Yeah,
But I always like to go back to the original. What did God do?
Yeah.
Because we're going to mess it up. And God did not have Paul put an opinion in. God used Paul's unique style and personality to bring the truth. Later, people started doing whatever.
How do we find the original Bible, the original text? Some people say it's an Ethiopian type of.
Well, there's 3 languages that the Bible is written in the original language. So there's Hebrew, Greek, and Aramaic. Those are the 3. If you're reading an Aramaic, a Greek, or a Hebrew original, then you probably have the right one in your hand.
Yeah.
Now, out of that came others. Obviously, there's the Latin Vulgate, and all that. But the originals are those 3 languages. And there's a 4th in the Old Testament, but it's only like 8 chapters of Psalms.
Do you believe that books have been taken completely out of the Bible?
I believe that there are books that certain denominations would consider canon that did not pass the canonical process of the early church.
Okay.
That might have useful secondary purposes
Yeah.
still to this day.
historical.
Okay.
How important is it to you that you have a mixed congregation of all
Races.
races, and why?
Oh, okay. So that's to me, right?
That's to both of you.
That's to both of us.
That's to
But you
both
got to
of
leave
you.
it. I'll let
Uh,
you take it.
the reason why it's important to me is because we are the only we're the New Testament church. Okay, we just talked about the Old Testament. We are the New Testament church. The New Testament church in the Bible. I don't care what version you get it in, what translation you get it in. It is a multi-ethnic body of
Everybody's.
believers. All of the writings that Paul is writing to the churches, they are the issues that are being brought up. There are multicultural issues because there are multi-ethnic people filling those churches.
Correct.
So if that's what's happening in the New Testament, and we're to be a New Testament church as well, we too should be a multi-ethnic, multicultural church that are contending with all type of issues. Whether you want to call those issues, same-sex marriage is all. We need to be contending with all of those issues because Jesus is for everybody. And so if he's for everybody, that means the sinners, we're all sinners. Everybody's coming.
It could be for
It
everyone,
means everybody's coming.
but it doesn't mean we all have to be together. So what does it mean? You see what I'm saying?
Oh,
And what makes
Together how?
what's the definition of a New Testament church?
together have.
A New Testament church is a church that,
No,
Okay,
you
wait,
go.
wait.
You go first.
Okay.
It might come up. You might answer.
All-
I'm looking for clarity.
we can't be an Old Testament church. Okay,
Okay.
first and foremost, that book
We're
is
not sacrificing,
Yeah,
animals
we-
and
The blood's not
The
here.
blood- yes.
right.
Yes.
We're New Testament church. Jesus Christ has come and died, and he's coming again.
so
okay.
that's the New Testament.
Okay, New Testament church.
Okay.
New
All
covenant.
right.
Boom.
So, all of those churches are multi-ethnic churches.
Where does it say that?
Jews and
Where
Gentiles. Jews and Gentiles
Okay,
together.
yes, it does.
Greek,
Okay.
Hebrew,
All right.
all of these-
Barbarian, Scythian,
every place.
all of those people are not the same culture of people.
Yes, that is true.
And so when you look at Acts, as early as Acts chapter 2, you
That's the
see
first church.
a multi-ethnic group of people.
That's correct.
And every church that flows out of that has become that.
So why can't we do this now in 2023? Do you think it's worship music? Do you think it's a difference of
I think it's a misunderstanding of the gospel,
what?
and that the gospel is meant to be unity and diversity.
Yeah.
Meaning, so this is why I was asking you the follow-up question.
Mhm.
Do we all have to believe all of the exact same things
No.
to be in church together? No.
No.
We have to believe the key things to be in church together.
Okay.
And that's where our diversity comes from.
Okay.
You know, and if you look to the church in Revelation, here's the deal. If you go to church your entire life in an area that has multicultural people, and yet you are in a church of, say, all white people, okay, say you're in a church of all African American, all Hispanic. Now, again, that's not necessarily sinful to be in those churches. I'm not saying that. But you're going to be awful surprised when you get to heaven and the worship experience is everybody. Why not model what you're trying to do on what the church is going to be in eternity,
Right.
which is everybody, which is open, where worship music is. Because I will tell you, I'm a white man from New England.
Mhm.
There are times when the music that we have brought into this church, thank the Lord, has made me uncomfortable.
Okay.
Because I'm going to be like, and sometimes we got to be dancing all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Because we are intentionally saying we want to be a place where our African American brothers and sisters feel comfortable, which means we better have some African American flavor music
Yes.
that is done from an authentic heart. So I'm a little uncomfortable sometimes. And I tell him that, I'm like, Ray, I don't know what to do with this.
Mhm.
But I love that we're doing this. It grows you when you get into community with people different from you, you grow.
They
And God
played
wants you to
an
grow.
African American song that
Whew.
I was in the parking lot and I heard it and I just thought, I don't know what I thought. And then I said, I don't know what I thought. I was just, are they singing that on stage? She said, yeah, I took off.
Yeah.
I took off running because I was like, okay, I love the worship music here. You guys are welcome to come any Sunday or any Wednesday, by the way, just putting that in the atmosphere. We have a good time here.
We have turned it into, why are we not able to do it? Because the sin of man has created an environment where there's still a lot of healing to be done. That's why it's so hard. The sinfulness of the system that we live in, the 400 years of real history, there's still a lot of work to be done. That's why it's so hard.
You get any pushback?
But Sunday
We don't have to say names, but
But Sunday we don't.
All of them.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Jesus got
because
pushback.
I haven't seen a church that has black and white pastors.
Jesus-
I personally have not seen that in my life, other
I
than
have.
Eastlake. I have not.
I have, however, here's what I've seen though. I have where all of the powerful pastors are white,
Okay.
and you
the
got a black,
token.
you got a black token guy. Which is what I love about us. When God put this staff together, God put all kinds of capable people on this staff, and then created a turnover happened in the staff, and everybody on the staff knew that the one called to it was this man,
Yes.
Ray.
He's our senior pastor. if you guys
Ray.
didn't-
And it wasn't about Ray seeking power. It wasn't about, man, we're going to make the black guy our pastor either. It was, we just knew Ray was going to be our pastor.
Mhm.
As pastors, we looked, I mean, we were just reminiscing about, how he was about ready to slap some of us early on when it's like, it's you. Because he hadn't prayed about it yet. He's like, be quiet. But we also, I don't want to miss that we were also intentional about that too, because what God told me was, you're not called to be a lead pastor. How cool is it going to be? You're going to work with your friend,
Yeah.
and it's going to be an opportunity for me to position a strong African American pastor in a traditionally white church in South Carolina.
Mhm.
That's real too. I mean, I don't want to gloss over that either. We talk about that often.
And then you end up housing one of the most and only diverse homeschooling co-ops
Because
in the Midlands.
it's the hard work. Yeah.
We were brought together.
It's the hard work of the conversations. And so the answer is, why is it? Because the conversations oftentimes are not happening.
And I add this one thing. It's also because in Revelations 5 and 7, that's the goal.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. That's the church. That's what church is going to look like.
Every tribe, every tongue, every nation. And so if that's the goal, why would we want to build or to amass anything different than what God is saying? This is what I am building.
So you're archers.
Mhm.
What are you aiming for?
Target.
The target. Who told you what the target was? The people that made those targets, right? Somebody, some point in time, said this is what a target's going to look like for archers.
Yes.
They could have made it so that you were aiming for the upper right corner,
Yes.
but they said you're going to aim for the middle.
Yes.
that's the middle that we're aiming for at Eastlake, is the middle of Revelation 5 and 7.
It's the reason why when Anna's baptism video, she said that she wanted to learn multiple languages so she could bring people together. So she's been
Same thing.
studying Mandarin
thing.
and Spanish.
Come on.
So for me, so I
Go,
go
girl.
to New Spring Youth Group, and like we watch our youth pastors on the screens. And at first, whenever I started going there, I was like, I don't like this. That's kind of weird.
Mhm.
But it's like every week we have a different youth pastor preaching, and everyone brings something different to the table.
Mhm.
Do you like that?
Oh, I love it. And
Okay.
one of my friends like, I can't watch pastor on the screen, and she was like, I can't find a one pastor that like I can connect with. It's always something different. Well, I'm like, come here, because every week they switch, and it's just this person's preaching, yo, I'm going. This person, they're good too, and it's just
Right.
I love it because we got High King who he's amazing. We have people who are from Australia
Mhm.
who are preaching. We have people who are married, people who aren't married, and like
Mhm.
whenever we went through February, the whole dating, we had every side of it, and it was just kind of like
That's one thing that I like about Eastlake.
rounded.
How everyone, the whole staff will end up on this stage. So not just the senior pastor preaches a lot, everyone. We even have a woman pastor here.
And it's very well rounded because it's like you can. So like I might not be able to in some ways connect with Pastor Rob with some things, but I can connect with Pastor Ray.
Yeah.
If, like I have amazing parents.
Yeah.
But so it's like I can connect with, but then I can also
Right.
connect with Rob in ways, and it's like you can connect with people different ways. So it's like that's why I like having multiple masters. Sometimes it's like, oh, I connect with you and you.
All right,
Keeps
guys.
it well rounded.
It is 11:10. We took you 10 minutes over. I
We did.
apologize.
Oh, really? Oh.
I apologize. And
I
so
thought you still had a question.
that's
Yeah,
10
wild
minutes
card.
into your recess. I'm sure they don't mind.
Blew your
But
recess out the water.
yeah. Do you guys want to do your wild cards really
You wanna do
quick
your
if
wild
you
cards?
have not?
Yeah.
Sure.
I need
And
to hear these
then-
wild cards.
Maybe we can do a part 2.
Let's hear these wild cards.
Okay. What is your favorite NFL team? And if it's Green Bay, screw yourself.
Oh, yes. I love him. I love him. I love him.
Well,
I
what
love
you're gonna
the
find,
tag. I
what
love
you're
the
about
tag.
to find is some of us are wiser than others on staff. But Ray, I'll let you go first.
I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan.
No. I'm a Eagles fan.
Oh,
No,
bless you.
I was gonna go with
Bless
you.
you.
I'm a Lions fan, so.
Oh, wow. Lots of prayer for you.
Well, I'm already praying for you. So I have two, and I legitimately have two. I grew up as a New York Giants fan. I would say they're my number one. But I lived in Seattle for 5 years and had the privilege of getting to know personally 4 or 5 of the Seattle players, and along with some of the previous players, and became a Seattle Seahawks fan when I lived down in Washington. So if the Giants are playing the Seahawks, the Giants
What do you-
get my admiration. So I'm but I'm a big Seahawks fan too.
Dallas Cowboys, period.
Well, at least none of your Vikings, Bears, or Packers.
Yes. No, we do have some wisdom in them. I mean,
There are no Green Bay people here.
You like Green Bay.
We got NBA teams.
Warriors.
Celtics.
I'm Pistons. I'm all Detroit.
He's all
Stuff.
Detroit.
Are you from Detroit? Are your parents from Detroit?
Like my mom and my dad are like their side of their families are all from Michigan.
Yes.
Like my whole family is Michigan.
There we go.
My
hold
whole
on.
family's from the
Hold
one.
on. I know we got to get to yours. Blue or green though.
For college.
For
College,
college.
blue or green.
Blue.
Yeah.
Big blue.
I know I like him
Go blue. Go blue.
Jackson's the man.
because there's only one right answer to that question too.
Right, out of
My mom's a Michigan State fan.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She's by herself.
So is Miss Megan.
She is.
That's a
yes,
sad,
Miss Megan.
it's a sad tale.
What is your favorite place to spread the gospel?
favorite place you've traveled to.
The world.
The world. Favorite place, like country?
Yeah.
What's your favorite country?
What's my favorite gospel spreading experience? Maybe.
It'd have to be India for now.
Mm,
Have to be India.
why is that?
Because India holds 40% of the unreached people group in the entire world.
Mm.
My favorite experience presenting the gospel is the only way I can think to answer this, because I love spreading the love of Jesus through the public and private and homeschool world, because I love young people finding Jesus. My favorite experience was, I referenced it earlier, was the refugee processing center in Karlsruhe, Germany in 2016, where we got to encounter Syrians, people from Afghanistan, people from Iraqis, Iranians, and all of them. And we had an opportunity to sit in a drum circle and play drums with them, which is hilarious. There's a video of that of me out there. But also what that garnered us was the chance to share Jesus with predominantly Muslim people who wanted to know, who were asking the questions. We weren't having to push it.
Wow.
We were getting asked.
We actually have a huge, well, not a huge, a big homeschooling population here at this church, actually.
We do.
My best friend, like, one of my best friends, I'm not going to say names because some people know, but whenever I first met him, he was not Christian. He was like, didn't hate Christians, was just kind of like, oh, well, is this going to offend you if I say this kind of thing? Was just kind of like right there. So I've been begging him for months, like, come to youth group, and he came to youth group.
Yes.
And so now he's like coming to church events with me, and is coming to youth group and kind of like open to it.
It's cool.
I'm just like, let's go.
And you met him at the co-op. I know who this is.
You know who
I
it
know who
is.
this is.
Boom.
It's exciting.
Autumn knows too. She can
Yes,
put it-
I think we all know who this wonderful human being is. Was that all the wild cards? You did yours.
Yeah.
We
You've
got
done
the wild
yours. All right. These we did not get a chance to get to, but we
Sorry.
appreciate your time.
Those ones that we-
I will save these.
I'm like, don't
Yes.
think they have any friends.
If you're joining us live, thank you for your time today.
Glad you were
All
here.
right, let's collaborate on the prayer out. All right, dear Heavenly Father, we come to you in prayer. We thank you for this meeting with Pastor Ray and Pastor Rob. We thank you for their time. We pray that you bless their week and their weekend. And we just thank you for this awesome fellowship that we've had together. Thank you for these kids. We pray that you bless them and their families as well. Thank you for the time and the commitment that you are pouring into the kids. And it really shows. They've been preparing for this interview and
Yes,
they've been
thank you
having
for
a blast. So just thank you. We love you. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Amen. All right. Thank you
Remember,
too.
it's still a hot mic.
Yes, it is. Don't get caught up.
Don't say this.
Bye.
Don't say anything stupid.
Okay, wait.
And